Welcome to the Cat Nat Unfiltered podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know you are a Canadian-born rapper like us, but you live in LA now.
You're a rapper just like us.
No,
Yeah,
not like
just
us.
just three rappers hanging out.
Yeah, she is more than me. If I was to, what would you say would be your bio now today? Because I feel like it has evolved and changed so much as Humble the Poet.
Yeah, I would probably just say, a Toronto. I guess not even. I guess yeah, Canadian-born artist that does spoken word poetry. I rap. I create visuals. I design clothes. I write books. I'm getting into TV and film. Did a lot of stuff on YouTube. Yeah,
and you were a teacher. You were
I was an actual Toronto District School Board elementary school teacher at Highfield Junior School, the second largest elementary school in Toronto.
They must have loved you.
What grade?
I taught taught for a couple of years, but so I mainly taught the fourth grade and the third grade.
They must have been so sad when you left, because as someone who worked with kids too, I know you're there for the kids, not for anything else, not for the parents, not for, like
for the money.
Yeah.
When you like the kids,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, and I actually left in the middle of the year. So I told them for Christmas, I go, I'm not coming back. And
I'm not coming back.
yeah, and it's adorable because they can't process the way, if I tell you, hey guys, you guys will never see me again. You guys might say something like, oh, that's sad. For them, it's like there's just a silence because they can't process it right then and there. And then I'm showered with like handmade gifts and,
Aww.
letters and all this type of stuff. And also they're developing brains. I always assume they just forget about me. But over the years, I've run into many of them. And I've also run into students that went to the school that were never mine, that claim to be mine.
Of course.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I was in your class. And I'm sitting there like,
I don't know you.
That much weed? I don't remember you.
Isn't that kind of the best though? Like that you made an impact even though you didn't know that you did. That's why kids are the best.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, especially it definitely feels like a completely different life. And I got into teaching very young. I think I was 22 when I started teaching. So that, that was more than 15 years ago. So some of these kids are like full-blown adults.
And you have 3 books now? 3 books, right?
In Canada, I have 4. In America, I have 3. There was a book in between that was just for Indigo.
Oh, because one of them is like, okay, the first 2 releases are Unlearn and Things Nobody Can Teach Us. I feel like that's an inspiration. Like, that's so interesting that you were a teacher and now you're unlearning. That's like, what's the word? You're the poet. Paradigm, dioxamide, epoxidide. The X.
I don't know any of. I was going to say theme.
The opposite.
Definitely the opposites. Like it's like you went and did this, and then you went and were like, let's unlearn what nobody can teach you.
Juxtaposition.
Yes.
Good one. Also antioxidant. Same thing. Pretty much. Same.
Yes, antioxidant.
I'm not a poet, right? Just so you know.
But you talk all about love, and it's so funny. Kat and I have had some really deep conversations about love and why we love and who we love and the reasons that we sat on a plane once and we talked about our love and why we love each other. And it got really weird and crazy, but you talk all about that, not just love.
Well, your book is How to Be Loved, or for, like how to be loved for, right? Like how to love and how to be loved for. If I'm not saying that right, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean the book was my literary attempt at clickbait. You realize that everybody, they want love. So the book, bluntly, if I want to sell the book, you say how to be loved. How to, everybody wants to be loved, but the truth
is that what everybody wants, is to be loved?
I think that's the only reason anybody does anything. It's for love. It's that thirst for love.
Like kill people? They kill people for love?
Yeah. I think everything that anybody does, any action is motivated not motivated through love. I'm not saying they're killing people because they love,
Right.
They might kill people because they want love and they think maybe they can achieve love somehow. Maybe they're killing somebody to make money, and then they think that money is going to give them a certain status and a power, and that status and a power will give them love. Or
And do you
they,
think we want love from, like, people are craving love from all the, like, they want love from people around them?
So what I think is people crave love, and most of the things that they're chasing aren't love. It's kind of like craving a, a really good meal and then going to McDonald's. So you're craving something nutritious, but then you end up chasing something delicious. And I think it's the same thing in the world of love, where it's like people are craving love, but some of them have not been exposed to just authentic, peaceful, calm love. So instead they start chasing things that are more delicious, like validation, power, attention, admiration, status, attraction, worship, all of these things that like kind of tickle our ego more so than actually give us a sense of peace that love actually is.
Wow. Is that okay? Because why do we find love why is it so complicated? Why, like, because a mother's love, which we are, feels simple, like feels very straightforward, even though they can complicate you emotionally. You love them
to just love them without
it's not hard. Why is other love so hard?
I think the beauty of a mother's love, and there's a chapter in the book called "You Don't Know Love," which is an entire chapter of an ex-girlfriend telling me that I shouldn't write a book about love because I don't have kids. And it's her kind of telling me that, because she has 2 kids, and she's like, "How are you writing a book about love? You don't have kids. You don't even know what love means." She's bluntly saying to me, "I've never experienced love because I don't have kids." And I kind of understand where she's coming from in that context. And I think the beauty of a mother's love is that it requires, like, this, it is probably a beautiful template of what we should understand love to be, because it's not a transactional relationship.
Mm.
It didn't require history. You didn't have to know your child to love them. Your child doesn't have to reciprocate. If anything, all they actually do is the exact opposite for an extremely long time. And I think as well, it helps create a different view of love. So the reason I think it's become so complicated is the creatures that we are as humans, for the vast majority of our history. Let's say humans have existed in our current form, let's say 40,000 years. And we were living in small tribes, small villages, small caves, whatever. I don't think for the vast majority of human history, humans were living in populations more than 100. So what happened with that is you start having this like village mindset. It's kind of like a middle school mindset, where you're very mindful of how you are in relation to everybody else. Who has authority over you? Who do you have authority? You're understanding yourself, and you also realize acceptance means survival. If the village doesn't accept you, they kick you out and you will die. That's translated into this, we still have that fear, even though the fear isn't real anymore. If your social circle kicks you out, you don't physically die. But the idea of FOMO, the idea of rejection, they still bring up those ancient fears. So what ends up happening is we become people pleasers, and we start choosing being likable over everything. And being likable does not create pathways of love. And if you guys are parents, you guys know that. Your goal isn't to make your kids like you. Your goal is to keep them safe and healthy and on a certain path. And, in order for them to love you, and in order for you to love them, that requires a deeper relationship. So I think what happens with us in this society is, first, we live in a society which is buy shit, be happy. That's the society we live in. So now how do you convince someone to buy shit? The way you convince them to buy shit is by telling them that they ain't shit until they buy shit, right? So you're not good enough as you are. So you need to buy this product. You need to buy this product. You need to own this car. You need to have these 17 outfits. You need all this stuff. So now people think they're not worthy as they are. And then we start having these conversations about worthiness and enoughness. And these aren't conversations we should have. We shouldn't be telling people you're worthy of love. You're enough for love. We should go one step further and be like, there's no such thing as being worthy as a person. There's no such thing as being enough of a person. How do you define enough of a person? I can pluck your fingers off and you're still a person. So we have to stop measuring ourselves and thinking that we have to qualify for love. Everybody you love in your life has flaws, And you could probably write a whole book on those flaws, and none of those flaws disqualify them from the love you have for them. Nobody.
I have to take a quick break. We have to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and ask you a question about women and men and this whole idea of buying shit and being enough. Okay, so we are women. All we know is a woman's perspective, and it feels like women put up with a lot more shit for love in relationships than per se men. It seems that would be the narrative that you hear. Do you think that women have less self-love than men in general, or what's your experience with like self-love in women versus men? And I never even thought of men not loving themselves. I think of men not knowing themselves versus not loving themselves.
I like the way you framed it in the beginning, saying that we're women, so we only know women's perspectives. So it's like I could say the same thing if I wanted to, and be like, "Well, as a man,
yeah. Well, no, our experience, or I don't even.
Oh no, completely. No, but
ours, not even.
But I appreciate because you're aware that there are multiple perspectives from it, and I think so. The way I wrote this book, I just wrote it from a human perspective, which I think is a little bit easier, and then it helps us kind of look at all of our relationships. So even when I talk about love, I don't differentiate love from a romantic sense, from a family sense. You know, the big idea that I'm exploring here is like your love for mint chocolate chip ice cream is no different than your love for your best friend, no different than your love for your child. Now there could be love now, and the way I look at it is you don't love somebody shows you where love is. Love is everywhere. So the analogy I use is love is the breeze. The work that we're doing is to open our sails. So now with your child, it's a lot easier to find that breeze and feel that breeze and open your sail and establish a pathway with that love. And then with somebody else you just met, you're going to have to spend time establishing that pathway and that connection. And over time, depending on your expectations, your insecurities, and what have you, you know, there could be things blocking that pathway between you and the other person. So what I think it is generally realizing the context of our relationships with different people and why we have them the way we do, you know, whether it's modern dating, whether it's friendships, whether it's work colleagues, whether it's our relationship with our siblings or our parents or, you know, our neighbors, you know, all of those, oftentimes, a lot of the things that we do, you know, happened when we were children, when we didn't have a lot of control over where we lived, who we hung out with, you know, what we were learning about, etc. And then as adults, you know, if we were to try to add a new skill or talent or relationship, we start to realize that it's way more work than we ever realized. You know, if you have an elementary school best friend, the conditions were there for you to see them every single day. Maybe your desk was beside them, and you know, you were pretty much almost force-fed each other, and you were at an age where your brain was developing, so now you guys are having so many first experiences with each other, and that's a very successful recipe for a strong relationship. But let's say you're in your 30s now how are you going to ensure you see somebody every day? You got to put them in your calendar. How are you going to ensure you have new experiences with somebody? You're going to have to like sit there and make a bucket list, you know. Otherwise it's generally the opposite. It's like, hey, I like you, dive into my world, come to all my favorite restaurants, watch all my favorite movies, read all my favorite books, listen to all my favorite songs. And that doesn't establish a connection. That's just you looking for someone to help validate that you exist. Versus saying, hey, I love you. What is your favorite song? What's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite movie? Let me dive into your world.
Do you have to love yourself in order to be able to provide what you're saying? Because if we're all looking for validation, like you're saying, I think that's why you're like, come to me, come show me, come do this for me. So it's like, how do you get to the place where you can show love without needing to receive love to show it?
Yeah. So again, the way I'm looking at this is, instead of saying I love myself and I love you, I'm establishing a pathway of love within myself. I'm creating a relationship with myself the same way I'm creating a relationship with anybody else. How do you create a relationship with anybody? You're sitting beside your best friend. What do you do with your best friend to start that relationship, establish that relationship, and maintain it? First thing, the most successful thing that you guys have probably done, which I've seen publicly in your videos, is you embrace each other as you guys are. You know,
Right.
so if you go on my Instagram, my pinned video is me in my underwear talking.
Yes.
And the reason I made that video is because people are like, oh, you think you're a love guru now? Well, where's your wife? Where's your kids? Where's all the things that love should give you? And I'm like, that's not the love that I'm talking about. The love that I'm talking about is I can look myself in the mirror and not be critical. You know, I embrace myself as I am. I'm go easy on myself. You know, I'm vulnerable with myself. Vulnerability, that's the more vulnerable you are with a person, the deeper the connection you create with them. You know, whether that's telling each other your deepest, darkest secrets, whether that's crying in front of each other, you know, whether that's sharing a bathroom, whatever it could be, that's what establishes that deeper connection. We have to do that with ourselves. So what we need to do is when we talk about this, do I love myself to love others? 1000% your relationship with yourself will decide every relationship you have. And the way I like to frame it is prioritize your self-respect over your self-esteem. You know, so
say that one more time. Prioritize your self-respect over your self-esteem. So that means I respect myself. I don't need to feel good because I respect myself.
How you feel about yourself is more important than how others feel about you.
Oh, because self-esteem is about other people.
Yeah.
And self-respect is about yourself.
Exactly.
I feel like we're in school right now. I'm learning. I'm doing a good job.
We just had a conversation this morning about how, you know, we've always known, you know, let's just say girls who always they would want the attention from guys to make themselves feel better. And they need to have like regular sex with their partner to feel like they are loved by them. And they need someone to tell them you're pretty for them to feel pretty.
A lot of validation.
But you really, like, you shouldn't need another person to have that kind of self-respect. You have to get that for yourself, don't you?
I don't want to say I don't want to live in the world of shouldn'ts and, you know, make these kind of rules. I want to say it more so the idea of the way you feel about yourself is inside you, right? There's actually nothing you can do on the outside to improve how you feel. So the George Carlin quote, like, if you're hungry, you can't tape a sandwich to your body. You know, it has to go. Yeah, it has to be internal. So this idea of gaining external validation, it doesn't work. It's not that you shouldn't do it. It just doesn't work. Because if it worked, you wouldn't keep having to do it. Right. Yeah. So now instead, when we focus on things that build self-respect, so what I realize is the more self-respect I chase, the more I do things to earn my own self-respect, the less I chase outside validation. And I also am aware. So the first thing is I don't judge anybody or myself for wanting outside validation. As I said, this is ancient software built into all humans. We needed outside validation to stay alive. We needed people to like us to stay alive because we lived in smaller communities and we definitely required that. So I'm not holding it against myself or anybody else. And that's, you know, the subtitle of the book is Go Easy on Yourself. So the first step is just realize, okay, I want everyone to like me and that makes me normal. But now what I have to realize is I'm in a society where everyone can't like me. That's impossible. You know, that whole, you can be the juiciest peach in the world and some people just don't like peaches. It's that same idea. And also, even if a lot of people like me, so, and I think we can all attest to this, having more followers than the average human being and getting more comments and more likes and more engagement, it doesn't do much, you know, it doesn't do much the way people think it is. And then, you know,
it does nothing.
Yeah, it does nothing. And then you can imagine if you 10x your following, I 10x my following, you know, and you can 100x it because there's people with those numbers too. It doesn't make a difference. It's the same amount of people that like you, same amount of people that don't like you, just at a different ratio, you know. So for the average person, if they have one person liking their picture and maybe, or like 10 people liking their picture, one person hating, for us, it might be 1,000 people liking it and 100 people hating. It's the same ratio. So it's more about understanding the internal versus the external. And the internal is just, let me develop a relationship with myself because I can't successfully outsource the solutions to any of these feelings. If I feel lonely, there's nothing I can do outside of myself to effectively address that. Okay. And I think this is where we think about our romantic relationships.
Yes.
We're literally outsourcing what we think is the antidote to loneliness by getting with people. And then, you know, I think I mean, I think it's 56% in America now with the divorce rate. Like, there's a high, there's a lot of statistical evidence that is explaining why that just doesn't work.
Okay, wait. We're taking one more break, and then we have to dive into that because wow. So you're saying that people naturally are taught to couple up to get validation because it means they're worth more, do you think, in their head, or they don't even think about it
alone?
I think it's a combination of survival, like survival is there. Mother Nature has her own agenda, and I think her agenda for us is listen, eat, sleep, and make babies. Everything else is not on my to-do list for you. So I'll make it a little bit more difficult to do anything else, So if you're not eating, sleeping, or reproducing, then I'm gonna talk you out of it. When you decide you want to go for a jog, I'm gonna talk you out of it while you're tying your shoelaces. Like
wow, that's a cool way to think of it. Actually, that's because biologically, that's what we're taught to do. Like
that's what we're taught, yeah. And even the chemicals and the emotions, like it's women have to find a mate to reproduce, and also have to understand that if that mate isn't of quality, then she's gonna have to do all. First off, a woman can find the greatest guy in the world, the most supportive, loving, successful, rich, good-looking, everything man, have a child with that person, and still is going to do the vast majority of the work raising that child, right? So your best case scenario is find someone that you enjoy being around, and you're still doing the majority of the work. And then the majority of women are not finding men of that quality, so now they're doing even more. So that's going to build a level of healthy neuroticism. I have to be cautious. I have to be mindful of it. So these are things, so walls are going to get built up, protective walls, So all of these types of things are what we see in the dating game. I go on a date with a woman. What ends up happening is the first thing I'm doing is not figuring out if I like her. The first thing I'm doing, just the way we've set up culture now, is trying to get through the wall, get over the wall. Let her know that I'm worth it. Let her know I'm worth a second date. And then the challenge with that is, I turn up the charm all the way. I do all my funny stuff or whatever. I finally win her over. She's let down the guards. She likes me. And then what do? Now I take a step back and like, wait, is she even for me? And then I start to pull away.
Oh God.
Right.
Yeah, this is what a fuckboy is, right? But again, it's understanding why it exists that way. Right? Because it's not because as a man or growing up as a boy, that's what I was taught. You're taught that you're being chosen. So focus on being chosen, and then it's because and that's why we have, for example, like it's not difficult for a woman to be promiscuous versus a man.
We just talked about that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and irrespective of people's beliefs on the morality of it, that's a whole other thing. But it's not so for a male, other than the mega symmetrical faces. For most men, it's you get to choose amongst those that choose you. And the average man, you can ask any man that how often are they receiving unsolicited compliments from women on a daily basis? Not daily, not weekly, not even monthly. So from that standpoint, it's like the dynamics of it, mix that in with what we're taught through watching Ross and Rachel, Disney movies, porn, all of this starts to skew our understanding of the whole situation. So now everybody's just wearing a bunch of masks and facades, hoping to find somebody, and then slowly hoping they can remove some of those facades. When we know, and I'm sure you guys know, sometimes those facades are never removed, and then people either suffocate or they just blow up one day. And I think, and none of that is love. None of that is love.
Do you think that you can love yourself and not you can have, how many forms of love do you need to be like to feel good about, like, can you just self-love? Like you said, can you open up can your mint chocolate chip and your dog and you be love enough?
Yeah,
or
100%,
do you
100%.
Yeah.
But I think what ends up happening there is, if I have done a lot of work to establish love with myself. So there's a chapter in the book called Love is Being Your Own Best Friend, right? So if I view my relationship with myself from the standpoint of a best friend, what's a best friend? A best friend is your biggest cheerleader, but they're also somebody who can kick you in the ass and tell you to get up. There's somebody that will defend you if anybody tries to disrespect you, you know, there's somebody that will encourage you to show your fangs and show your teeth and stand up for yourself. There's somebody that will put a battery in your back, but there's also somebody who, if they are critical or constructively critical of you, you kind of accept it because you're like, wait, this person can see my blind spots. They're on my team. You know, that's what a best friend is. So if I was able to practice, and that's the thing, you got to practice it. It's work. It's not just an overnight thing. If I practice that with myself, take myself out on dates, spend time being more intimate with myself, more vulnerable with myself. There's a chapter in here about a girl who told me her antidote to loneliness is dancing, reconnecting with her body, just feeling herself, being aware of herself, looking in the mirror in your underwear like I did, and not looking and challenging yourself to pick a favorite body part, challenging yourself to be like, I accept you as you are, irrespective. You know, there's a million comments in there, but like, look at this guy not thinking that it's, you know, it's okay to have an unhealthy body. Well, even by science terms, I don't have an unhealthy fat count. You know, by scientific terms, women should never have abs. By scientific terms, men should not have abs for a long period of time. All of this will mess up with your hormones. I think men should be 18 to 22%. I'm probably in the 20 range. And I think women, please don't quote me on these numbers. It might be 25 to 28, something like that. And so all this, like, for Instagram purposes only, showing your abs, this stuff isn't healthy. So I think having that, the other two things you can do to really develop a deeper relationship with yourself: journal. When you journal, you take these little fragmented thoughts out of your head that feel so heavy, and you put them on paper. They disinfect in the light. And we all know this, even if we don't journal, because when we make a to-do list, so often it's like, oh my God, I have so many things to do. Then you write your to-do list and it's like 4 things. You're like, oh wow, that felt way heavier in my head.
You know, I think females are good at this.
Yeah.
Because we talk to each other too, and we unload on each other, right? We carry each
journal
other
out loud.
Yeah,
each other.
A lot of women journal out loud constantly.
I was thinking
so
that
the reason is one more, and this is irrespective of your beliefs. Irrespective of your beliefs, pray. And the reason I'm going to say this is irrespective of your spiritual beliefs, because the beauty of prayer is that prayer is the only time that you will be completely honest about what you want and completely honest about what you're grateful for. So, you know, think about what people would actually pray about when no one else is looking, when there's no fear that someone's going to find their journal or their diary. What will they actually be thankful for? What will they actually want? And what you're doing is you're revealing a deeper self. You're revealing your deeper self to yourself.
And that's, if you don't have a belief, you know, you can always use a star. You can use
a star. You could do an algorithm. You could do whatever. Yeah. And at this point, I feel like everyone's found something, whether it's the universe or, you know, the
Pinterest.
Pinterest, or what do they call it? The flying spaghetti monster. The atheists call them that. Whatever you want. But I think the goal isn't the
supermoons, whatever you do.
Yeah. The value of it is the deep level of vulnerability that you're expressing through praying, more so than who you're praying to. And I think that's what makes it really important.
Cool.
And all of these, and again, all of this would be the same thing to develop a deep relationship with another human being. You're expressing your deepest wants, your deepest needs, your deepest fears, your deepest insecurities. The challenge that we have is we think that you have to go from 0 to 100. Now, you guys have been super close for a long time. You guys can go deep with each other. You guys have met me for the first time. I can't go super deep with you the first time I met you.
You could though. But we would, but not everyone could. I get it. Yes.
Yeah, but and even that is, you guys are receiving me because you guys have done a lot of work to receive people and say, look, I don't expect people to be perfect. I'm not here to feed the facade that everyone needs to be perfect in any way. So we can receive people who are being imperfect, and maybe we can have certain conversations that people who have met for the first time don't have. But what I learned was, and I learned this through therapy, is just have 2 lightly vulnerable stories in your pocket that you can tell a stranger for the first time, and it's not TMI. Yeah, so the one I have, the strong one that I have that I can tell anybody that wouldn't scare them away. So I talk about my dog. I had a German Shepherd growing up. He lived out a full life, and he lived out till 11, and then he had hip problems, and we had to take him to the vet. And he was super scared at the vet, and it was such a traumatizing experience both for him and for me to watch him super scared and watch us put him to sleep. And I avoided trying to get another dog forever because it just broke my heart. And every time I see somebody else's dog, I just want to give them a big hug and a kiss, even if I don't know the person. And all my friends who have dogs, I'm that backseat dog owner. And then 2 years ago, at the height of the pandemic, I was at one of these illegal parties that we're not supposed to have during the pandemic. And somebody said, "Hey, I know somebody who ordered a dog through this breeder, and this is in Toronto. They go, I know somebody who ordered a dog from Belleville, Ontario, through a breeder, and the parents were brown. The dog turned out black. They don't want the dog." And I was like, "Dog racism? That's stupid." And they said, "Do you want the dog?" And I was like, "No, once this pandemic is over, I'm moving to the States, so I can't have a dog." And then they're like, "Okay, cool. Last call for the dog. If you don't want it." I was like, "No, I don't want it." 3 shots of tequila later, I'm screaming, "Where's the dog? I want the dog. I need the dog." And so I signed up to buy the puppy, who was literally just born. So I still had to wait 2 more months. And now I have a beautiful. I have pictures of her right here. I have a beautiful little black mini golden doodle named Boogie. And
oh my God, I love a German Shepherd to a golden doodle. Oh my God,
German Shepherd to a golden doodle, and it's the greatest thing ever. And she enjoys all the pretty girl privilege in LA. I call her my roommate. I call her the young pretty girl that I had to buy her rent and pay her food. And she runs around the house naked all day, and it's a great relation. She got discovered. She got discovered at the park. We got a paid modeling gig. She got to take pictures. Yeah, we're at the park. This is like, she's living the most Hollywood life ever. Like, literally, someone's like, "Hey, has your dog ever modeled?" I'm like, "My dog's a year old."
Does my dog ever model?
Yeah, and she got paid. We took pictures for some really crappy Italian clothing brand where she was their dog in a private jet. I got paid $300.
No.
Yeah. And I was like, "This will cover your expenses for like 2 weeks." So like, okay, she's a very expensive dog, but it's just, so that's an example where I shared some vulnerability, but none of that is, I think people are afraid to be vulnerable because they think that information will be used against them or they'll be judged. And I'm like, no, that's light vulnerability right there. I'm speaking
light
about
vulnerability. I think we tend to not be light. We tend to be overly vulnerable.
I think about when we first started hanging out again after high school, and we started out with like top level conversations, and it was really sharing some things that we either hadn't talked about with anybody about ourselves that got us closer, whether
vulnerability is a strong point, but I mean, vulnerability is nothing to be like afraid of. Vulnerability is like that's real life. Vulnerability is what is the underbelly of life that makes us all human, right? If you don't have vulnerability, you're not really living. You're living in a very safe place.
Yeah. And it's super, sorry, go ahead.
Does it from everyone that you've talked to, does it feel like, I feel like from people, I feel like so many people still have so much work to do to have that self-respect within themselves. Like, I'm just even thinking about
my favorite thing, self-respect.
Instagram post, when you posted yourself in your underwear, I think you look great in your underwear, but it doesn't really matter what I think you look like in your underwear. Or when anyone posts a picture of their body and you get all these compliments, none of it really can't change your self-respect. You have to work
and I think
it.
and I think it also educates you, because I said, like, at the end of the day, the reaction I've been getting has been across the spectrum. So the reaction has been everything from "stop propagating unhealthy bodies" to "your body is so nice." That's not, you're not being brave. You know what I mean? Like, you're not even
right.
You don't even have.
I'm not doing it for any of you. I like myself.
Yeah, your fat count isn't high enough for a love yourself post.
Oh
yeah,
shit, that's so
that happens.
So and then there was also DMs from women. Then there was there was an entire spectrum, and then there was friends, like childhood friends, looking for any excuse to make jokes. And then I was just recently on the Breakfast Club, and then Charlamagne made a comment about, he goes, "Listen, nothing matters other than the curvature that comes from the underwear." Like, everyone has a different opinion about everything and what matters, and I think it teaches you that everybody can only receive you as far as they are, and as I said, like, that for some people that's ultra vulnerability. For other people, that's light work. But I remember 3 years ago, a fellow author said to me, "You're so brave for posting about Colin Kaepernick. I could never do that. And I'm sitting there like, that's not even like, this guy's got a Nike deal. Like, this guy's not like on the side, like, you know, a controversial figure. Like, this guy's I literally posted a Nike ad. Like, this guy's, he's a mainstream individual. Like, that's mainstream activist. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not some.
Yeah.
And I think you realize, but that individual felt like he couldn't get politically involved in any capacity, any whatever. Everyone's receiving you at where they're at, where their insecurities are at.
That's a really good thing to think about. People make comments about anything you're doing.
It's their story. It's their story. It's not yours. And what we start to realize, and I think I've learned this especially, you know, as a South Asian, who, you know, has a mother and 2 sisters and 2 nieces, you notice a big pattern when it comes to cultures that for the longest time, you know, kind of put most of the weight on women. What you realize is it creates a system where prisoners graduate to guards. You know, so where one, you know, so where the, you know, I've noticed that in my culture where the women are marginalized, and then over time they become so they were the prisoners of this, and then they become the guards, and then they start doing the marginalizing. So I started to hear my mom, the misogyny that comes in my culture, I hear it out of my mom's mouth, not my dad. He quietly enjoys the privilege. My mom is saying, this is what a woman should do. This is, you know, don't be one of those independent women who has a job and then you come home and you don't even take care of your household duties and all of this. And you're like, she's perpetuating it. And it becomes a cultural situation like that. We start to realize, okay, well, what other prisoners turn into the guards and keep all of this? And it's really about breaking those patterns. You know, that's all we can do. And there's another chapter in the book called Love is Being Your Own Nurturing Parent. It's seeing the gaps in your upbringing, and instead of just going back and being like, I hate you, mom, I hate you, dad, you messed me up, being like, okay, I'm an adult. I can fill those gaps in now. What did I need back then? I didn't get. I'm also an adult to understand context. Maybe they were too busy surviving and paying the bills, or maybe there was nobody there to teach them that going to the bottle is the only isn't the only solution. You know, whatever it may be. Now as an adult, I can process all this stuff through my journaling, through my therapy, through my praying, through my dancing, through my art, through my whatever. I can process this stuff. And now if I need to take myself out for ice cream, or I need to do whatever it is that I feel like I require, then we can all make that happen.
We could talk to you forever, because I feel like there's so much, like we have a very linear thinking, like the 3 of us. And, you know, this is going to air near Valentine's Day. And if you want something, get it yourself so you're not disappointed. That's, you know, just kind of like do it for you. Don't wait for other people to show you love, you know?
And what I love right now, looking at your dog, the big lesson I realized through my dog is you can't shame a dog from expressing their needs.
You cannot.
Especially not this one.
Yeah, so this one's like
zero shame in.
Yeah, so this one, he's just is it a female or a male?
She's a female.
She's a female, so she's just like, listen, give me some sugar. I need sugar now, and there's nothing.
And if I stop, she literally is like, actually, you're not going to stop. We're going to keep going until I get exactly. I'm actually going to get on. Yeah,
she likes to come right in between us.
There's no.
And there's a beauty to that, because so many of us have been taught to like shrink our needs in our existence, and then when you get a dog is like, oh, okay, excuse me, where are your boundaries? Let me just cross your boundaries. Let me just. Where's your personal space? Let me get up. You know, I need to know where your business is so I can be in your business. And I realized that with mine, because what mine does is endlessly wants to play fetch. And then what she'll do is endlessly. And like I can watch an entire movie and play fetch with her, and she'll still be playing fetch with me. And what I realized is I'll be like, no more, we're done. And then she'll look at me, she'll walk away, and she'll just like fall as like the most dramatic fall ever. And then I'll go back to doing what I'm doing, and then somehow the ball's back in my hand 5 seconds later. Yeah. Like, what does it? And I've seen her do it, with complete strangers. As I said, I make music, and I'm in LA, and I walk into this one studio, and there was like 20 dudes, and these guys were like making gangster rap. And I remember I walked in with her. I went to go do something, and then I turn around, and she has 2 dudes on their hands and knees trying to reach for a tennis ball that got stuck under the couch.
Oh, I love it.
And she's legitimately barking orders at them. I mean, like, she's like a high-pitched bark, like, get my ball. And they're apologizing to her. And I was like, she's undefeated in how she does this. But the big lesson is like, you can't shame them for having needs. And so often we make our needs smaller. We don't express our needs. We go into relationships. Needs aren't met because they're not expressed or communicated effectively.
Okay.
And that's what we can learn. That's probably the main lesson we should learn from them. Other than that, it's a codependent relationship, and that's definitely what we should not have as humans.
No.
Our human relationship should be a lot more like a cat in the context of like
You're doing a good job. Thank you.
I'm an outdoor cat.
Where can everybody find you? And I know when does your book is out now, right?
The book is out. The book dropped on December 27th. So the book is available. Thank you. Yeah. It was designed by Ruben Rojas, who, if you come to LA, you'll see this love graffitied everywhere in Santa Monica and Venice. Yeah, I was connected with him. He's often known as the love guy. So it's like, who better to do the cover of my book than the love guy? So the book is available everywhere. Indigo, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you're listening. Everywhere books are available, the book is there. The book's in audio. I recorded it in audio. In my voice.
So chill. It's crazy. I feel so calm after listening to you. It's kind of crazy.
Yes, I'm learning about ASMR, and apparently I fall into that. So I read the book, and actually the book has love stories in it. The book, each section of the book. There's only 3 sections in the book. What the fuck is love? Love for self, love for others. Those are the 3 sections.
Easy.
And then easy. And then the sections are separated by love stories. And
are they your love stories?
Huh?
Are they your love stories?
I'm in them. They don't always. They're not always love. I'm not always the winner.
Erotica. They're not erotica. Just clarify.
They're definitely not erotica. What I would call them is counterintuitive love stories. They're love stories where you read them and you're like, wait a minute, I never even thought about that as love. Everything from there's a story in here about my mom refusing to say she's proud of me because. In her spiritual beliefs, pride leads to jinxing. So
wow.
Her telling me she's not proud of me is to protect me.
Oh.
So you realize like she's actually doing it from a place of love.
And you can accept that.
I can after having the conversation I can accept it. Because for the longest time, she's like, go back to teaching, get a real job. And I was like, look,
of course, real job. Yes, the definite yes. But we're looking for our own self-respect, not self-esteem. So
exactly, outside validation, and you see, a lot of us still have our parents' voices in our heads, and it sounds like us with our expectations. And it's just about building that level of awareness, and then and again, once we realize it, don't beat yourself up. Just be like, okay, this is normal, this is common. Let me address this now, slowly and surely, and it's going to be work. And doing hard work is what builds self-respect.
Okay, doing hard work is what builds self-respect. It doesn't just come. We got to work on it. We're always growing.
Thank you so much for joining us.
In person, but let's hang out sometime.
Let's meet in LA. So much more fun.
Yes, anytime there. And then I'm also we can do LA, and then I'm also now in my own journey of doing things that are hard. I'm looking to leave LA and go to New York.
We'll meet in New York too. We'll do either.
Yeah, we can do all. Oh, and I'll be in LA for a while still. But I'm thinking, like as I said, my own journey is like. And I had just done a week of press in New York, and I had the most New York experiences. It got rear-ended by a car, the weather, all of the New York experiences. I'm like, I am coming into this voluntarily, enjoying this, knowing that my rent's going to double.
Yes, it is. Your life's exciting.
Hopefully your dog likes New York. It sounds like your princess likes LA.
Well, she spent the first 6 months of her life, we were living in Regent Park, so she's a little bit used to the noise and the busy and the hustle and bustle. And she was legitimately the only dog at the dog park that wasn't afraid of fire trucks and fireworks. Yeah. So I was like, okay, she's already got her city resilience. I want to keep that. And I'm extremely, as I said, she owns every room she walks into, and I'm pretty sure she'll do the same thing to New York. Many no pets stores, they let her in, and yours is just as beautiful. Yours is much bigger though, like 40 pounds.
Almost 50. Yeah. She's a special character and needs love, lots of love and lots of validation, and has lots. I don't know about her self-esteem, but she's definitely great with 3 children who need lots of snuggles. So she
that's amazing.
Sleeps with all of them. And there we go. Hush, little baby.
I have a 20-pound one.
Yeah, mine's is 18. She's 18 pounds. Mine would leave me for you guys. She would legitimately, if we walked into a room, she'll be like,
if you could cuddle her, you could carry her out like a baby.
Mine always wants to be around the women. Mine, she's like, look, us girls are gonna be over there. Just make sure I can see you.
Yes.
Make sure I can see you, and that's it. But don't, And I've been trying to. It's been really interesting because I'll say, you want to fight, and she's that to her means play, and then we'll play.
Yeah.
I'll be like, do you want to cuddle, and then she'll run away because she knows that means I'm gonna hold her a lot longer than she wants me to hold her.
Same with mine.
Yeah. She knows all the low key
Mine will
words.
come up to me and she'll give it to me, but then when I try to pull her in, she backs away.
She's like, it's on my terms. It's all on my terms.
Exactly.
No, mine will take anything and everything and anything. It was so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
And we'll see you soon. We'll see you soon. I know it.
We will.
Bye.
Take care.
All right.